Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at a really interesting addition to the KSC Crystals 2026 collection. And it's interesting because, Keith is always hunting for these big, flashy, high-impact pieces.
Right, the showstoppers.
Exactly. But this one stood out for, well, the complete opposite reason. It's almost actively anti-drama.
It really is. In a market that's constantly chasing, the brightest color or the most perfect clarity, this stone is practically hiding. You have to lean in a bit.
And before we even get into the energy, we have to talk about the name. Or the identity crisis, maybe?
Oh, yeah.
If you look around, you see it being sold as fusion quartz, which I have to say sounds like a battery or, I don't know, a new kind of razor.
It's a terrible name, frankly. Fusion just implies a lab process, like someone artificially stuck two things together.
It suggests a treatment.
Exactly. But KSC went with Chrysocolla Veiled quartz because, well, it's just more accurate.
So that tells us we aren't looking at some kind of dye or a surface coating. This is geology.
That's the key thing right there. What you're looking at is a natural, pale, sort of milky quartz that has these soft blue inclusions growing inside it.
Okay.
And based on the color, it's definitely copper-based. So most likely chrysocolla or something very similar, just suspended right there in the crystal.
I was looking at the macro shots, and suspended is the perfect word. It's not like sharp, distinct crystals inside.
Yeah.
It looks almost like smoke.
Or veils, like the name says.
Right, like veils.
And that visual, that softness, is really what dictates the energy. You don't get a solid wall of blue. You get these wisps, these patches. It's diffused.
Okay, so that must be key to how it works. Because usually when we talk about quartz, we're talking about amplification, right? Turning up the volume. But with this, it feels like those copper inclusions are almost acting as a dampener.
Or maybe a filter. Think of it this way. Clear quartz can shout, "This stone, it speaks."
Ah.
It has that stable grounding structure of quartz, but it's combined with that soothing kind of emotional quality of the blue copper minerals. But since they're veiled, the energy isn't forceful at all.
The description mentioned it's a stone for tender communication. That really stood out to me.
Yeah.
Because usually blue stones, like, say, sodalite or lapis, they're all about speaking your truth. It feels very active, very direct.
And often very sharp, which is great if you need to, win a debate or give a presentation, but tender communication is different.
How so?
This is for when the communication itself feels fragile. Maybe you're trying to do some restorative work in a relationship, or you're trying to find the words for something difficult.
So it's the difference between a spotlight and a candle.
That's a perfect way to put it, yes. It's supportive, not declarative. It's an honest stone because it isn't flashy and it helps you be the same way.
There was one line in the description that it nailed it for me. It said, "The stone speaks in whispers rather than declarations."
And that's it. That is its defining characteristic. It works in the background. It's just quiet and reassuring.
It almost feels like a necessary pivot for 2026. We've had a lot of loud years.
We have.
This feels like a stone for someone who is just tired of all the noise and wants something quiet and honest.
I think there's a bigger thought there, too. We live in a world that so often values the loudest voice, the most aggressive opinion.
Sure.
But this stone kind of reminds you that real influence doesn't have to be loud. Sometimes the most profound shifts happen in a whisper, not a shout.
A little quiet power to end on. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.